are here in London. You live in London.
Yeah.
The Asian Awards, is it something that you ever thought you'd ever be at on your doorstep?
No, I think it's amazing. I think we're always trying to integrate somewhere, and I think it's amazing actually that we celebrate ourselves in our own way as well, which is really dynamic and quite unique.
The awards themselves celebrate Asian excellence, okay? And of course, you went to Central St. Martin's and you've got to where you've got to today. There's some level of aspiration that must be within you. Talk to us a little about what keeps you going, and I know you started in a family business. Tell us about what that aspiration element is. Is it tangible?
I think it's always tangible. I mean, I don't think it's tangible, but I think the drive, I think the idea of actually being either an immigrant or a refugee or something that you actually come to another country and it becomes, there is a drive there basically no matter what. And I think that's actually always quite key. Yeah. You just feel like you have to fight a lot harder, a little bit more against the odds.
And are you aware of that from the get-go?
Yeah, I think so, definitely, yeah. I think that is really, because I think fundamentally you have, your own heritage aesthetic may not be really mainstream, but it may be dumbed down version of a mainstream, but you try and harmonize it, or you try and actually create something which actually appeals to a wider audience, really.
You must experience that every day when you're, of course, not just making your garments and designing them, but also getting it out there, putting it out there, being involved in the marketing and sort of running your business. What are the challenges you face in terms of integration of a subculture or a culture into what we deem as a mainstream culture in the West?
I think fashion is probably one of those, the creative arts is one of those industries that actually do celebrate uniqueness or difference, and I think that's actually, but there are hurdles, there's always hurdles, and I think there's actually, there are always sort of preconceptions of what you're really about. I mean, generally, there isn't, you don't necessarily, but people try and describe your work in certain ways or stuff like that, which we may not necessarily want it to be. But I think fundamentally, probably I think the creative industry actually celebrates difference, but it also is actually, on the other hand, is also much more difficult to actually really get into and actually excel in as well.
Why do you think that is? What's the obstacle that we're talking about here that maybe other people watching this can relate to, and perhaps even you could teach them a thing or two about how to get around some obstacles?
I think it's just a lot of hard work, I think, basically, and it's also, I think a lot of it can be about timing and luck and lots of different things. Many kind of stars have to really align. I think the product has to be right. There has to be lots of different things, really. I don't know. I mean, I think if you have a dream, basically, you need to really, if you have something that you want to say, I think you need to really just go out there, really, and just can't really take no for an answer, really.
And so let's talk about this award show. You're being honoured here at the Asian Awards in its 6th year. We've had some incredible winners in the past grace the stage here and take home an Asian Award. What does this mean to you as an Asian, as a designer, and as a human being?
I mean, I think to be honoured somewhere is always, it's a nice pat on the back, basically, to see. I think you do that in many circles, whether you do that in your family or you do that on a national stage or an international stage. I mean, I think it's just sometimes nice to be actually felt nice tap on your back, basically, to someone, all the hard work you've been putting in.
Well, I'm sure later this evening there'll be plenty of pats on your back because we are here to celebrate success. And of course, I won't spill the beans now, but there are things happening later which you and I know. What can we say to anybody out there in terms of words of wisdom for creative industries? Because it's not something that typically Asians support for young people. What could anybody watching that who wants to go into creative arts, what would you say to them?
Okay. I think the creative industries, I think we have a lot to offer, We have humor, there's so much, basically, and I think we really need to kind of embrace it and get it out there. And I think it's a very viable industry. Not everyone can be a fashion designer, but then lots of people can actually be a cutter, or there's lots of jobs within the industry, in the fashion industry, which actually are very well paid. A great pattern cutter can get huge amounts of money, basically, yeah. So I think there's lots of, a great production person is like gold dust. So there are industry. It's a really, I think what by my parents sometimes actually there's an element of servitude actually in the creative industries, which doesn't necessarily have this kind of idea of professionalism or being a doctor or a lawyer or something along those lines, where you have the kind of like people look up to you as opposed to like you're making someone's clothes, which is a different kind of mentality. But we've all been doing it forever. Basically, it's a craft at the end of the day.
That's wonderful. I'm sure there are perhaps some kids out there that are going to watch this and show it to their parents and say, well, he said we can do it and he's winning an award for it tonight, so maybe we could do it.
I hope so. I definitely hope so.